Okay, so we've made our shape, so we've formed it on our card. It's nice and smooth. I mean, obviously if you wanted to add a texture onto there, then you could do. You could think about how you might use the clay tool to do that. So it might be making impressions with a simple tool where you might go around and make those indentations. So you're adding a sort of texture onto that. That seems to work quite well. Yep. Or you could do what I've done here, where I've used a skewer and I've gone through completely to create little holes in there, and actually that would work quite nicely, because then you could have a tea light underneath and then place that on top, and then you'd have a little bit of illumination there, so that would work quite nicely. What I usually use for those would be just a simple skewer that you'd use, a kebab skewer, and just go through and make holes in there. Now I did this when it was on the former, and then it's probably a good idea to go around afterwards to just make sure you've gone all the way through. Making sure, obviously, you've got to be careful at what point you do this. You can see that this has gone very dry. You can tell it's dry because it's gone paler, so a lot of the water's gone out of the clay. So what we've got here is greenware, which is pretty much ready to go into the kiln. It's quite dry, that. It is very fragile, so you do have to be careful at this point that you're not going to knock it or break anything, or you're too robust with it. At this stage, where it's still very malleable, you can see that I can go through that quite easily, and also it's still on the former, so then again it's easier for me to work with. Okay, so that could be something that you do. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm thinking that with this one I might continue with that texture on there. So we're going to have a go now at making the star. Now with this one, it is really important that we attach this really well, otherwise if we're not using slip, it will fall off. So I'm going to start with a simple ball shape that I've just rolled like so, and then all I'm going to do is take my thumb and press that down. Okay, and then just using my clay tool, I'm going to do a star, so side and the triangle at the top, just taking those little bits away as I'm doing so. Okay, and then triangle, triangle, and then the bottom sections. And then I can start to sort of just smooth some of those sections together. Maybe take off any little gremlins. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a tiny bit off the top, so I've got something to attach it to. I'm going to take some slip and I'm going to score the inside and then put some slip on, and then that is going to sit on the top. Now this is where I can really attach it now. So taking that, and I'm trying to show you so it's at an angle, but ideally what you guys would be doing is you wouldn't have to hold it like this, but you can see there that I'm just going to pull some of that clay from the bottom to the top. I'm sort of losing my shape a little bit there, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to carve that back when it's really well attached, and I'm then going to turn that around again. It helps that it's on the former because you've got that support, and again I'm going to pull some of that clay up and attach that really well. Now you notice that I've got a little bit of texture on here because of the cloth that I've rolled it on. Now you might quite like that, it sort of adds a contrast to the smoothness of the surface of the tree. It could be where you take a textural piece of wallpaper, you might want to roll the clay into that, so it's giving you a surface and a texture to your clay to start off with. So that actually can work quite well, and these are the type of things that you can experiment with. And then I can just smooth that in, and a little bit wobbly at the moment, so I need to be careful that I'm not going to knock it. I've got to be quite careful with that. I might leave that for a little while, but what I am going to do is make some little indentations just there. I'm just carving that shape back slightly so it looks like it's sitting on the front, and then I'm going to carry on with this texture here, and I'm going to follow on with this now, and then I'll show you it when I've finished, and then I want to show you some other ways of using this spare pieces of clay that you've got to make either smaller ones or really tiny ones. Sometimes it's quite nice to have a set of different sizes. And also I want to show you how you can use the wallpaper to create some textures, or it might be using things like lace, works really nicely to create textures as well. Okay.